Hi, welcome to the Deck Network. I'm your host, Mike Danzilio, and on the Deck Network, it's all decks all the time. And we like to show a lot of videos because we learned from the Tony Robbins company that a picture tells 1,000 words, but a video, when you see a video, you retain 80% more from watching that video than that picture and the 1,000 words. So that's what. And today's show, we're going to talk about alternative railings or non-wood railings. And just like decking, where we have composite decking, capped composite decking, and PVC decking, we have the same thing in railings, but it's mixed up a little bit. So let's just get right into railings. Now, this one is a basic rail. It's a PVC rail. We buy it from a local company. PVC rails usually have these big pieces of hardware or covering up the hardware, and over the years companies have tried to make these smaller because that's really what people look at. The more expensive the rail, you'll see it right away because it has less hardware showing. But this rail is like an intro rail for us. It's only about $21 a foot. And how we figure railing prices, we get a sleeve, a cap, a skirt, a 6-foot section of rail. We add the price up and divide it by 6. To me, that's the fairest way to come up with a rail price. Now, you also have to remember that at the end, you'll have to put a post, or if you have a set of stairs, you're going to have to add a post. But sometimes I've seen people price rails with 2 posts. Well, that's very inaccurate. That's certainly too much. Then I've seen it with just the rail section, and they divide it by 6. That's even more inaccurate. So I like to use the method that we use the sleeve, the cap, a skirt, and a 6-foot section of rail, add it together, divide it by 6. Now this rail here, this PVC rail, it's made by a company called Eastern Fence. It's their Illusions line of railing. I like it because it has ICC code testing done on it, where a lot of products don't. Now, for instance, at some of these big box stores, they'll have a railing that if you really look on the fine print, it will say, not recommended for use over 30 inches in height. Now, what does that tell you? Well, it tells me that it's never been tested or it's not a child-proof rail. So if you have a deck that's over 30 inches in height, where that's the requirement for a child-proof rail, don't use it because it's not a legal rail. But they cover themselves by not, by saying that, or having some sort of disclaimer. All right, next we're going to look at composite railings. And just like composite deckings, they've been around for a little while, and they usually match their decking. This particular little section or sample here is the Trex Designer Series rail. It's in saddle color. It has Madeira caps on it. It's been around for a while. It's just like when I talk about composite decking. Composite railing does the same thing. It fades, it stains, and it gets some mold on it. And the problem with it is that it's becoming expensive as opposed to the capped composite products. And now when we talk about composite railings, this one is probably another one of Timbertech's industry standards. This is the Timbertech ornamental rail. It's made to match their twin finish colors, their redwood, cedar, and their gray color. We're going to talk now about white capped composite rails. Now, they weren't called capped composite rails 5 years ago. They were just called their PVC or sprayed over PVC rail. But with the advent of capped composite decking, it just only seems natural for us to call these capped composite railings because that's really what they're made out of. So I have an Azek Premier rail here, and you can see that the inside is made out of a composite. Now, it may be a different composite than what the decking is made of, but it's a composite nonetheless. It's a mixture of different products. Now, airplanes, most parts on airplane fuselages are some sort of composite. They're not made out of aluminum or stainless steel anymore, but for weight and strength. So this one right here is the Azek Premier rail. And if you saw the Deck Network video with Tommy from Parksite and Azek, he did a great job telling us about these rails. They come in 5 colors, and there's a pretty rail. It's got a nice finish on it. These rails have evolved over time, They used to have a bracket underneath. Now they don't. People are always calling me saying that they still have the bracket underneath the Azek rail, and they do not. They've made them with a concealed bracket. Let's get into the, this is the Trex Transcend railing, used formerly called the Trex Artisan railing, but once they came up with all the 4 colors or 5 colors of the Transcend rails, it just seemed natural that they put this to the Transcend White. It has a kind of like a flat, dull finish, and for years I thought that's what people liked until I have more sales on the shinier ones. But it has a few different caps. These railings are very versatile. You can do a whole lot of them, a whole lot of things with them. This, for instance, it's you can change the balusters easy. You can put round balusters in. You can put these architectural balusters in. You can put a piece of 2x4 on the top. If you have a different configuration, what they call their universal rail, which are 2 bottoms, and if you have the bottom and you turn it around and put it up on top here, you can put either a piece of decking and for what people call a drink rail, or you can put a 2x4 on top of that. That's a real nice look. Change the colors of the balusters. Trex has always been at the forefront of versatile railings. This railing has got a great price point on it. It has this little gasket in here, and some people say, well, they don't like the gasket. They say that it makes it look cheap. So I say, well, then just don't use it, because it doesn't have any structural part on it. It's not attached to the hidden hardware, but it just makes it so that a lot of times when you're putting railings on an older deck and the 4x4s are somewhat twisted, or if you have a joist hanger in there, it may not be perfectly square. So it gives it so that you can cover up some mistakes a little bit more. But in any event, it's a great railing. It's got a good price on it. And generally, as we always know, that white railings are always less expensive than colored railings. So just keep that in mind. So let's get into this one here. I got a big display here, and this one is the Timbertech White Radiance rail. I like to call this the industry standard just because of the massive amounts that we sell, or I sell of this, and by talking to my friends at Timbertech, it's a very, very popular railing. It's not inexpensive. It's a little more, the white railing is a little more than the Trex white railing, but what people like about it is it has more of a glossy finish on it. It has more detail in the post, in the skirt, in the cap. The rail itself is very pretty. When people come into my showroom and they go up to the railings, they're swinging on them. They say, oh, the rail has to be strong. Well, rails are strong. And they bang their fingers on it because it has a nice solid feel to it. And this particular display, I got it probably about 4 years ago from my friends at Timbertech, and they were smart enough to put all their little lights on it. And this rail setup has paid for itself 200 times over with the amount of sales that I've gotten on this particular part over here is called the Radiance Post Cap Module. It comes in a smaller size also that would fit on the ornamental rails that we looked at earlier. They also fit on other companies' rails. This one is the accent light, another accent light. They come in white, and I think that this display was built before the white accent lights came out because they're very pretty, especially with the white railings. And of course on the bottom here you see the riser light. New for 2012 is that these Timbertech lights are now LED, so they'll take a little bit less power. I mean, these particular lights don't take much power anyway. I've had lights on my displays for years, and you just don't even tell the difference in your electric bill. So okay, that's it for white capped composite rails. Okay, on to colored railings. Now this rail here, and we had to move in front here because this this display is so large, but this is the Trex Transcend railings. My friend at Curve Your Deck, Sean, built this display for me. You can't really see it like this, but it's got a real nice radius right here. It's real pretty. So this, the Transcend, like the white rails, it has the same configuration but it has 5 colors. So you have the treehouse, fire pit, the vintage lantern, the charcoal black, the gravel path gray, and of course, you know, the white. But as all the rail companies have done, is they've gone to lights, because people want lights. And actually, lights on stairs are a code requirement for decks. It hasn't really been enforced all that much, but you're going to see some much stricter codes in the future on decks. So this is their cap light. It's LED. I think it only has 1 watt, but it doesn't really put out a lot of lights. But you can see it when it's dark out. It doesn't put out a lot of light though. This is their accent light, kind of a pretty light. I like this one over here. It has your in-deck light down on the lower section and your riser light. All right, now we're going to look at some more colored railings. I mean, that Trex display was so large we had to have it its own section. But here's a smaller section of the Trex. This is in the treehouse color. Pretty, nice rail. In 2010, we sold an astronomical amount of this rail. 2011, the price miraculously went up 20%, and it just cut the sales right out on it. That really goes to show that price elasticity works in the decking business also. So this one, I mentioned this one a little earlier. This is the Timbertech Radiance rail in black. If 5 years ago you came to me and said, how much black railing do you think you're going to sell? I'd say probably not all that much, but behind the white, the black is the most popular color. And it's very, very beautiful. It really has an elegant look to it. This one again is the Timbertech Radiance rail in black. The Timbertech Radiance rail doesn't have any hardware against the ends. It doesn't have a little gasket, but as I mentioned with the Trex rail, you don't have to use the gasket. You just have to make sure you make a nice cut. This one is the industry standard of railings. It's not inexpensive, but it's very pretty. With that in mind, and if you saw an earlier version of the Deck Network with my good friend Bill Georgelis from Timbertech, he said that they wanted a railing that was a little less expensive, but still had the same look. And the engineers over at Timbertech were certainly able to do that with this one here. This is their Timbertech Radiance Rail Express. Has the same finish on it as the standard Timbertech Radiance rail. The differences are it's a little lighter weight, so it's a little narrower on the handrail. The cap is a little different. The sleeve is just a straight square 4.5-inch sleeve. The ornamental post cap module that we talked about earlier will fit on this particular sleeve. Again, it has the hardware showing, and it comes in 3 colors. Now they introduced the white Radiance Rail Express in 2011, and this year Timbertech has added the black and the walnut color, and those have been big sellers right from the beginning of the year. As I've always said, that if you want to write me for any questions, comments, or requests for a Deck Network video, just write me at mike@thedecknetwork.com, and we'll see if we can do for you. If you'd like to be on the show, if you have something that you'd like the world to see, come on up. We can certainly do that if you're in the New York area, or we can also have you on Skype on the screen behind us. Now I have a pile of videos that I want to do. I have a notebook with a whole list of them. I'm just trying to push through as many as I can, and now we're into the deck season, and so I'm going to just do the best I can on getting videos, because I like doing them, and people seem to enjoy seeing them. And that's it for today's show. As I always say, have a great day.